Any other stories?
Yeah, I had a friend. She was on Dole-Mole. That's a dating app for South Asians. So she met this guy. She was
What's it called?
It's called Dole-Mole.
Dole-Mole.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she was exploring her options. She met this guy from Calgary. They went on a date, few days, and then they ended up getting married. Now she moved to Calgary, and now they're happily married. So,
And they only went on a few dates.
yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
They both were serious, so they ended up getting married because they both were trying to settle down and stuff.
And how old were they when they met? You know?
She was 27. He was 31.
Well, see, there are people out there that even in their 20s, they are looking for more of a meaningful relationship instead of just hooking up.
Yeah,
They're
absolutely.
kind of sick of that game where they don't want that to begin with. They want something either meaningful, they want nothing at all.
Mhm.
That's a great story, right? I think that the problem is that, in my opinion, because dating apps are so readily available on your phone, so you could be sitting on the toilet, or you could be, you could be like, just having your morning coffee, and you just constantly just swipe, and it's such an impulsive thing to do without even really reading about the individual, who they really are, what they've gone through, what their real story is. Are they even really? It's really more superficial. And I think that fucks everything up because when you meet the person, often, the way dating was way before these apps came out, there's way more connections because you didn't judge them just on their face. You actually met with them. You went out and you're like, oh, this guy's actually a gentleman. He's actually really nice. And we share a lot more interest in what I thought, blah, blah. I'll give him a shot. Whereas now it's this photo and you give him literally 3 seconds and swipe and then swipe. And because there's just endless profiles, it's just very addictive. You go on there, it's really just to pass time. It's not really to look for a partner, I find. You're really just passing time. And then you've got some people who are like whores on there on both sides that they know how to master their game. So they've got the best photos possible. They know how to write their profile as well. They got all the catchy things there. And they're the ones who get most of the action. So you might think, oh, this guy's, perfect for me. Yeah, every other fucking girl on that app thinks the same thing. And vice versa. When it comes to certain girls who've got like thirst type photos, every single guy is trying to, connect with her. And a lot of these girls, I'm not saying all, a lot of these girls are really just on there for an ego boost. Mm-hmm. That's it. They log into their account and they have 80 likes.
80. I got 6,000
so there you go.
likes right now on Bumble.
Okay. I don't even know the numbers, but that's insane. 6,000.
I don't pay for it, so I can't see the profiles, but when in the section where it shows you who likes you,
yeah.
there's 6,000 something in there.
So,
I can't.
How?
I'm not paying $60 a month to use that.
Yeah,
No.
exactly.
No, but I would have thought that on these apps, if you're a female and if someone likes you, that for you to communicate, that would be free.
It
Gotta
is.
pay.
It is
free to
but
communicate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find people because I swipe, and if I happen to swipe right and matches, every time I swipe
It matches.
it matches.
That's ridiculous.
But if I was
That is no, I'm saying think about that for a second. So that basically means if you look at it through numbers, every guy that you find, any kind of interest in.
I have a specific type though, and clearly the guys that are liking me, it's
No, I'm not saying, I'm not talking about the ones that I'm not, what I'm trying to say here is that because of the sheer number of guys on there, all of these guys seem to think that you're a match to them. Whereas in the real dating world, that's not how it would have worked out. But because of the way that it's all one dimensional, it's all just based on your photos.
yeah.
Mhm.
And maybe the age category based on, the men. Obviously, if a guy is 20, is he going to be looking for girls in her 40s and 50s? Most likely
I'm
not.
joking. I've got 18-year-olds that.
Well, there's the exception.
I could be your mother. Do you want me to breastfeed you?
Or the other way around. Like you're not going to have a lot of, 25-year-old girls or 30-year-old girls, liking 8-year-old guys. Right. So you can kind of set your age range. What's really ironic, though, is that women are able to, in their search, they can, choose what height they want the guy to be.
No, not on Bumble.
No, I don't think on
there's
Bumble.
no height.
They can list their height, but I don't think you can choose
You
the
can't
On
height.
choose
Tinder, you can, I think,
Tinder
right?
maybe,
Jeez,
but
can you? Oh, God.
not Bumble.
I used
No?
to
They have,
use one that
a lot
was
of
called
filters there.
OkCupid, where you could actually say, I want this person to be this sign. They had to be born on this moon.
What? Wow.
It was so specific.
If you pay for the premium, you probably can
Oh, true.
go deep
Wow.
into the settings,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
So
Yeah, I don't pay for it.
do you
so.
feel that because they're the amount of options that are available, do you feel that that creates the situation we're in now where as of today, there are less people in relationships than ever before.
Yep.
There's less people getting married. There's less people, getting into a committed relationship. Do you feel that because of these dating apps, that's kind of created that problem where the options are just endless for women, more so than men?
I also think it kind of creates like a standard too. Like a guy, like he sees all these girls on his feed and he's thinking that, like, no offense, that they're on his level, right? Thinking that like he has that riz, I guess you'd say, the kids would say, to go get that type of girl. And then he gets such an ego boost that when he actually does find a girl that might not be as pretty as somebody in the photos, but has a lot of substance to her in real life, he won't give her the time of day because he's already has a mental image in his head of who he could get based on the app. So I also think it kind of, that's what it causes, like a cause and effect with relationships too, right?
I think that it's really what you just said right now. I think that affects women more. And so what happens is, because women have so many options, they can't choose. And even if they were to meet somebody, they're still going to have their profile. They're not going to cancel their profile. They keep it.
Not all girls.
Well, I don't think that after the first 2 dates, they're going to start canceling their profile. They're still going to have it there, and they're still swiping. So it's not as if they, meet somebody, go out for dinner with them, and then they automatically close their account. No, they keep their account open. They're still going in there and checking it and checking messages.
I didn't. I wouldn't.
After one date?
I think for me, I'm all about energy. If I like someone, I'll know. I don't need more than 5 minutes to feel.
Yeah,
vibe.
you know or
So
you don't.
No, but
if
if
I
you-
want to continue to see you, I'm not going to go back on the app.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's just me.
fully.
So
That's-
you actually shut your account down.
So I met someone in the summer, and I was with them over the summer. And first date, I mean, I'm sure he kept his, but I got rid of mine.
Did you check to see if he still had his?
I couldn't give a fuck.
No? And did he ask you if you still
He
had
asked
yours?
me actually quite a few times if I was dating anybody else or if I was on the app. I just said, "Why do you care? Really that big of a deal?"
A lot
yeah,
of people
it
have had
would be.
breakups because of that.
But don't you think that matters?
But my Bumble says something casual. Not that I want to have sex casually, but I relationships are very complicated. So I need something that's like maybe once a week, every other week,
You need, what do you mean you need something? What is that? Like a
I'm talking about
fix?
sex. No, I'm not talking about sex.
Companionship.
Yeah, like someone, and I need intellectuality as well. I need someone that stimulates my mind. So
Well, the last
I'm not
guy,
looking
the
for more
last guy you
husbands.
dated, I don't think was
Yeah.
stimulating your mind,
Right? Stimulating one thing.
not your mind. But you kept him.
Well, I also was celibate for 2.5 years after I left my third husband. So I chose to be alone for all that time. And then when I was ready to be intimate again, that's when I went on Bumble.
So, moving forward, when it comes to dating, do you girls feel dating has changed? Do you feel that men are more reluctant when it comes to asking you out or making the first move since the Me Too movement or since COVID? Do you guys feel that? Do you hear that from your female friends? No?
Not really.
Not really,
no.
to be honest, no.
No, I mean, I've blatantly been hit on in front of my husband, and I've told the guy like, oh yeah, like I'm sure my husband wouldn't appreciate that, and he's blatantly said, well, it's okay. Do you want to come hang out alone? Something to that effect, right? So
Mhm.
I mean, like I think it's honestly, I don't think it has
Same.
affected them
Like a lot of guys
whatsoever.
have just gotten hornier since COVID.
Yeah.
So you don't think that because of the Me Too movement, because of, a lot of these, I'm not saying all men, but some men being, held responsible for their actions, whether it's because of SA or grape, you don't feel that men are worried
No.
about, let's say, I'll give you a scenario. So you meet a girl, you go out, you have drinks, things happen, like a one-night stand thing. Next day, you don't call the girl, right? The guy doesn't call the girl. Now she's pissed off, right? Because her ego's been hurt or whatever. A lot of men that I know, including myself, I would be worried that woman is going to like say something on social media or tell people you got me drunk.
But
And,
question on that. No offense, but you're very successful.
Yep.
Now, I don't see somebody, you look like a target to somebody who'd be trying to do that. I'm not saying that a lot of Me Too girls were lying, but I am saying that not everybody was believable and some people were very exaggerative in that sense. So when it comes to a rich or a very successful person, yes, I could see the worry and the reluctance. But to the average Joe that's making minimum wage as a forklift driver in a warehouse, oh no, his ego ain't shot. He's going for gold every single time.
Really?
Oh,
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't think of that. I just kind of thought that a lot of my friends, when they date girls, they're like they kind of hold back when it comes to making a move on the girl, or when it comes to even approaching girls and asking them out. They tend to be a little bit more reluctant because they don't want the girl to say, "Oh, he hit on me," or "he came on to me," or "he SA'd me," whatever, blah blah. So they kind of back off. But I guess you have a valid point. I think that most guys, because that's the majority of the men, right, that are, I don't know if you want to use the word simp or beta, but most guys who are just kind of getting by, they're not the ones who are getting majority of the action. Like you had mentioned that a lot of the guys that you match with, because you have a certain criteria of men that you like, do you feel that those men are also getting a lot of other women who are also liking them?
For sure.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So those men that you're talking about, they get majority of the action. Those are the top 20% of men, whether you want to call them high value or whatever. So the other 80% of men, and these are guys who are good guys. I'm not saying they're bad guys, but he's a forklift driver. He works in a warehouse, or he works at McDonald's, or he stocks shelves at Loblaws. This poor guy is not getting any action. So 80% of the men fall into that category. And those 80% of men are the ones that support OnlyFans or Pornhub, because that's where they get their action. And they did some stats, and they said that those 80% of men are lucky if they have sex once a year. The other 20% are, they can get it whenever they want, as often as they want. And that's why there's a lot of stuff online where, you've got all of these different podcasts that are trying to promote this message that if you're a high value man, that your woman should be okay with you having multiple partners. I'm sure you girls have heard that, right?
But would you agree with as a guy, would you agree with the fact that bad women have ruined good men?
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Yeah. And again, it has to, what happens is that a lot of women tend to think that, for me to get a really good guy, I just have to be hot and have to be desirable. No, that's a part of it, no doubt. But guys that I know, including myself, I want a traditional woman. I'm not interested in being with a hoe. Yeah, she can be a hoe in the bedroom with me, no problem. That's great. That's behind closed doors. But if I'm going to put a ring on your finger, if I'm going to consider marrying you and having children with you, if you don't have, wholesome traditional values, fuck off. So my things that I feel that today with dating, the biggest problem is that there's too much selection and most of it is not meaningful. It's just bullshit. So that's why you're stuck on there swiping. If you actually gave some of those guys, if they kind of met what you're looking for, if you gave them a chance, actually went out with them and sat down with them, met their family, you'd probably click with them.
Hard though, because at the end of the day, like I've married guys that are not as attractive as me. And it's like it's great in the beginning, but at the end of the day,
what does attraction have to do? I'm not even talking about. I'm saying if you
sexual attraction, right?
But then you shouldn't have married them. Like that's crazy.
You marry someone because
that's a you problem.
No, that's she's right. That's a you problem. Number one thing's attraction.
Somebody can be so wonderful, but like if you don't have that,
you always got to wake up to them the next morning.
So,
gross.
You know what?
I'm telling you, it's gross. It's just
Elizabeth.
gross.
Let me ask you this, okay? When it comes to two people meeting, the first thing that has to be there is attraction. Otherwise, you're not going to make an effort to even get to know them. You're not going to even give a shit. So the first thing that draws you in has to be attraction.
Depends if you're in a desperate phase of your life.
Were you in a desperate phase or three times?
My first husband was my high school boyfriend. We were together for 11 years.
But obviously you were attracted to him when you first met him in high school. Were you desperate?
But that faded because he fucked like every cheerleader in high school, and it was hard on me. Like the longer we were together, I was like, this is gross. Like I don't want
why'd you
this.
marry him? If he
I'm
banged every girl.
Italian. My mother was really keen on it. She wanted me to do it.
So you're Italian. He was Italian. What is that?
Yeah.
Why'd you marry him? Because he was Italian.
Yeah.
No,
he was a plumber.
Italian.
Oh
he was a police officer.
Okay.
My second husband came at a time where I was in between I just gotten divorced. I was like 27 or 28 at the time. And I was just kind of like, who's going to want me? You know, like I've already been married. So fuck it, this guy came along and he was really nice. And that's all I cared about was just a nice guy. That lasted 14 months from the day I met him until we broke up and we got married within 6 months.
And that's the problem.
And he wasn't the one. He just filled a void that I didn't love myself. So I was accepting of the
wrong
love.
reason to get married.
And then the third husband was the love of my life that I met. And to this day, he's still the love of my life. But he's
You fucked that up.
no, he was a bad person. And
Oh.
and you know, it takes years to get to know people. From year 1 to year 6, I started to see who he really was. And I met him. I lived in the Mediterranean for 3 years. We fell in love in the Mediterranean. Then we lived in England together for 3 years. It was just so exciting. And as I started getting older, I realized that this sexual fire I had for him didn't exist anymore because he was just a mean person. And I thought, I'd rather just be alone. Like I don't care that much to be in a relationship. So I made mistakes, right? But I've seen every aspect of that for me, loving someone different reasons, right?
I think that if people were to kind of go back to the basics of dating the way it was before, where I'm not saying it has to be like, totally formal, but if you met somebody, they came to pick you up at home, if you're living at home, they kind of meet your parents. Your parents know who the person is, and you go out for a nice dinner or whatever, and you have, several dates like that. I feel that would have far more meaningful results at the end, in opposed to just meeting some guy in the app and let's meet at 11 o'clock at night, Timmy's. And you meet, then you go fuck, and that's it. And then you don't hear from the guy later on. And then the girl wonders, oh my God, why is he not calling me? Well, because you're a hoe. Like he banged you he just bought you a coffee.
What he wanted.
Well, he
Okay,
bought you
I'm gonna devil's advocate.
he bought
there.
you a coffee and got you a Timbit, and then
I
you
met
know,
my husband. He was the manager at a dispensary, and I worked for head office, and I was in there doing an audit for money purposes. And I'm in there, and I recognized him from high school. And back in the day, he was like the hot shit, and I was like the little goof nerd. And I was like, I'm taking my dig, like I'm taking my shot. So I did. I went, and I was like, hey, do you want to go smoke a joint at my apartment after work or whatever? So he came to my apartment, and I met him in the lobby, and I went downstairs. I was like, fuck, you have one option. Grabbed him by the face. Okay. Didn't even say hi. Just started making out with him. And then I left, and I turned around, and I could see his reflection in the door to my apartment. I was like, if he follows me in, I'm good. If he doesn't, I'm fucking fired tomorrow. So then he followed me, and we fucked all night. It was the greatest sex of my life. And I knew right away I was locking that
But
down.
that's different though. Like you knew him from high school. That's a whole different thing.
Here's the thing. I knew him. He didn't know
Which
me.
is fine, but obviously that's why you did what you did. I'm saying if you meet someone, because I mean you were attracted to him from before.
He was,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
So what I'm talking about is someone meeting somebody off a dating app, and then they meet up like on a Monday, like at 11 o'clock at night at a Timmy's, and then they go have sex in his car, or they fool around, or they go back to his place and they have sex. How do you expect that to have any chance of growing into something meaningful? That's the chance of that happening are very rare. I don't believe that is going to turn out to be, oh, he put a ring on my finger, now we're married, and that's not happening.
Shotgun wedding, maybe.
Yeah, I feel like when there are so many options out there, the true meaning of love just gets lost in the dating world. Like, what is the end goal, right?
Yeah.
You're dating, moving on to next person. You don't want to settle when you know there are so many options. You just like keep exploring. You don't want to fight for your relationship. You just like
as soon as they just take the exit and go on to the next girl that's
correct,
available.
right? That's why they don't
Because there's so
settling.
many
There's
available.
there's
That's
ready
the
to
thing.
go. They have
Yeah.
a lineup ready to go.
Yeah.
If this one, if it gets hard, next one's
Next
up.
one. Or they have 2, 3 on the go. And even girls do that as well, too, because they keep their dating profile active, and they still have guys calling them, texting them. And if this guy didn't make me feel good, okay, I'm going to go on a date with this other guy tomorrow now. And I give option B a chance. And I've always got option C, who's just kind of waiting on the sidelines. So you're never really going to give anything a fair chance.